Have you ever sat quietly at the dinner table, looked at your grown children, and thought to yourself, when did the respect disappear? Maybe they interrupt you before you finish speaking, roll their eyes at your advice, or even dismiss your opinions like they don't matter anymore. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, or like your words carry less weight than they used to, you're not alone, and you're definitely not powerless. The truth is, growing older comes with wisdom, experience, and a lifetime of stories. But unfortunately, in today's fast-paced world, people often forget to honor that, especially our own children. Sometimes, without even realizing it, they stop listening, stop appreciating, and start taking us for granted. And when that happens, it can feel deeply hurtful, not just disappointing, but isolating. Like your presence no longer matters the way it once did. But here's the good news. You can get that respect back. You don't have to accept feeling disregarded. In fact, there are powerful, meaningful things you can start doing right now to shift the dynamic in your family. Not with anger or confrontation, but with quiet strength and dignity. In this video, we're going to talk about 6 impactful ways to regain the respect you deserve. Each one is simple but deeply powerful. Let's begin with something that often surprises people. One of the most important things you can do is set clear emotional boundaries. Now, I know that word boundaries might sound like something from a therapist's office, but it's really just about teaching people how to treat you. Think about it. If your adult child speaks to you harshly, dismisses your thoughts, or constantly expects you to give without giving back, what message is being sent if you allow it without saying anything? The truth is, silence can often be misunderstood as acceptance. Setting a boundary doesn't mean starting a fight. It means calmly saying something like, "I don't appreciate being spoken to that way," or, "If we're going to have a respectful conversation, I need you to listen too." At first, it might feel awkward, especially if you've spent years putting your own needs last. But over time, these small statements create a big shift in how people interact with you. You're not demanding control. You're asking for mutual respect. And don't underestimate the power of consistency here. Boundaries only work if they're followed through. That might mean stepping away from a heated conversation, or pausing a phone call if your child is being disrespectful. You're not being rude. You're teaching them that your time and your peace of mind are valuable. And that's a lesson that can... Another powerful way to rebuild respect is something many overlook. Start living for yourself again. Yes, you raised your children, supported their dreams, and gave them the best of your years. But now, this is your time. Often, when older parents begin to focus on their own passions, hobbies, and friendships, something amazing happens. Your children begin to see you in a whole new light. Instead of seeing you only as mom or dad, the person who's always available, always giving, they start seeing you as a person, a whole, complete, independent person. And with that comes a renewed sense of respect. Because there's something magnetic about someone who values themselves. So pick up that paintbrush again. Join a walking group. Take that trip you always dreamed about. Not only does this bring joy back into your life, it shows your family that your world doesn't revolve around their schedules or approval. that you have your own life to lead. And trust me, that's something they will notice. One woman I spoke to said that after years of feeling ignored by her grown children, she finally signed up for a weekly photography class. Nothing dramatic, just one evening a week, doing something for her. Within a month, her daughter called and said, "You sound so happy lately. What's going on?" That conversation was the beginning of a new chapter in their relationship, one where her daughter actually listened, because when you shine, they notice. Another small but profound shift is in how you carry yourself during conversations. Instead of trying to convince your children to respect you, model the behavior you want to receive. Speak with confidence, hold your posture, choose your words with care and calmness. This isn't about being strict or stoic. It's about communicating from a place of self-respect. For example, if your son starts dismissing your opinion about something you've lived through, gently say, "You may not agree, but I've lived long enough to see things unfold in ways you haven't yet." Just something to consider. No anger, no begging for validation, just calm strength. What happens over time is that your calm tone, your sense of self-assuredness, it begins to rewire how they see you. They start listening more closely, arguing less, because you're no longer coming from a place of needing their approval. You're standing in your own wisdom. And remember, respect is rarely regained through demands. What often brings the biggest emotional relief is simply letting go of the need to be right. I know, that might sound strange, especially when you've lived through decades of experience, raised your children, worked hard, sacrificed, and endured things they haven't even begun to imagine. But here's the truth. Trying to win every conversation or prove your wisdom isn't what earns respect. What earns respect is emotional maturity, knowing when to speak and when to let silence do the talking. There's strength in being the steady one, the calm in the storm. When your children throw around opinions that sound immature or short-sighted, you don't have to meet them with arguments. You can simply say, "That's an interesting way to look at it," and move on. That one simple sentence does something powerful. It communicates confidence. It shows that you know who you are and don't need their validation to feel grounded. Because what we often forget is that silence can speak louder than lectures. I remember an older gentleman once told me about his adult son, always challenging him, always trying to pick a fight over politics or parenting or money. At one point, this father just stopped engaging. Not out of anger, but from a place of peace. He started responding with brief, respectful statements and then changing the subject. Within weeks, his son's tone softened. Why? Because he no longer felt like he was fighting an opponent. He was talking to someone who didn't need to prove anything. And in that shift, the respect returned. Now here's something else we need to talk about. Something that gets overlooked far too often. Self-care and presentation. You may wonder what that has to do with respect, but hear me out. How you take care of yourself physically and emotionally sends a powerful message to the people around you. If your clothes are always tired, your energy low, your words filled with self-doubt, what message are you sending? But when you show up with pride in your appearance, even in small ways like fixing your hair, wearing something that makes you feel good, walking with your shoulders back, You send a different message entirely. You say, I still matter. And when you treat yourself like you matter, others will begin to treat you that way too. This isn't about vanity. It's about dignity. There's a quiet power in self-respect that radiates far beyond words. Your children may not say it out loud, but they notice. They take their cues from you. If you act like you're shrinking, they will treat you like you're shrinking. But if you show them that you still take pride in who you are, they start to see you with new eyes. And let's not forget, respect is also nurtured through emotional connection. If your relationship with your children has, instead of giving advice, ask thoughtful questions. Instead of reminding them of what you've done for them, show genuine curiosity about their lives today. What are they struggling with? What excites them right now? One of the most empowering changes you can make, especially if you feel like your voice no longer carries weight in your family, is to start speaking from a place of calm authority. That doesn't mean raising your voice or demanding anything. Quite the opposite. It means speaking less from emotion and more from confidence. It means choosing your words carefully, but delivering them with quiet strength. You've lived through decades of ups and downs, mistakes and victories. That wisdom doesn't need to shout to be heard. It just needs to stand tall. The next time your child brushes off your advice or tries to challenge your point of view, take a breath. Pause. Then speak clearly and calmly, something like, "You may see it differently, and that's okay, but my experience has taught me this." That's not a fight. That's clarity. And clarity creates respect. When you show that you're not rattled, not desperate to be right, not hurt by every eye roll or dismissive comment, it sends a message. You are unshakable. And people respect what they can't shake. Over time, your children will start to lean in. They may not admit it, but they'll begin to realize that your presence is not only grounding, but necessary. Now let's talk about something that might feel difficult, but it's one of the most loving things you can do for both yourself and your children, and that is letting go of the past. Because sometimes, what stands in the way of respect isn't just what's happening now. It's old wounds that were never addressed. Moments where you were hurt. Times when you felt unappreciated or abandoned. Maybe your child made choices that caused you pain. Maybe you forgave them, but never really let it go. And because of that, there's a subtle resentment that lingers every time you talk. Here's the hard truth. Carrying that pain, even quietly, creates walls between you. And walls don't create respect. They create distance. Letting go doesn't mean pretending it didn't hurt. It means you choose not to let it control you anymore. It means you look at your child, and instead of seeing the mistakes, you see the human being they're still trying to become. You can even say it out loud if the moment feels right. I know we've had our differences, but I love you, and I don't want the past to define our relationship anymore. That takes courage, but it also creates space for healing, for reconnection, and for respect to grow again. And maybe most important of all, never forget your value. Your worth is not determined by how often your children call, how much they ask for your advice, or whether they thank you every time you do something for them. Your worth has always been within you. You were valuable before they were born. You were strong through every season of their childhood. You gave love, support, and time that can never be. Sometimes, when children don't show respect, it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with their own stress, their own growth, their own struggles. And while that doesn't excuse disrespect, it reminds you not to take it personally. You're still worthy, still powerful, still deserving of love and dignity. So if you found yourself questioning your place in your children's lives, if their tone has stung, or their absence has made you wonder what went wrong, take heart. You can begin again, not by trying to change them, but by changing the energy you bring into the relationship. Set healthy boundaries. Invest in your own joy. Speak with calm strength. Release what no longer serves you. And above all, live in a way that honors your soul. That kind of self-respect becomes magnetic. And eventually, it pulls others, yes, even your children, toward you with a new level of appreciation. You are not invisible. You are not too old to be heard. And you are certainly not powerless. Respect doesn't begin in their behavior. It begins in your presence. So stand tall. Speak with kindness. Live with joy. And don't be afraid to remind the world and your family that you are still here, still wise, and still worthy of being heard.
If this video spoke to you, I'd love for you to share your story in the comments below. What's been the hardest part of feeling disrespected, and what small change are you ready to make today? And if you found this helpful, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more uplifting, empowering content just like this, because you deserve to be reminded every single week how powerful and needed you really are. Here's to living with dignity, love, and confidence at every age. You matter. You've always mattered, and you always will.